This conference will now be recorded.
I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nora Neal. I'm with Acumen Fiscal Agent, which is the financial management service contracted to assist employers that choose the self-directed option through DDS. We also have on with us today two from DDS, Jamie Roselle and Doris Earhart. If you do have questions for us as we go through the session, feel free to enter them into the chat. That option should be available in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. And then if you think of a question afterwards or maybe a day or two from now, feel free to either reach out to your case manager, or you can send an email to dds.sds@okdhs.org, as well as you can reach out to Acumen at acumenok@acumen2.net. These email addresses will also be available at the end of this presentation. So this presentation is to give more information about self-direction. Self-direction is an option available through Developmental Disability Services for those receiving support through the in-home supports waiver for children and adults, as well as those on the community waiver, specifically the non-residential option. If you're not sure which waiver your loved one is on, feel free to reach out to your case manager, and your case manager can help identify which waiver. So with self-direction, you will select someone who will become what is called the employer of record. The employer of record is the person that will oversee the self-directed services and how they're provided. The employer of record can be pretty much anybody. They have to be at least 18 years old, and they can be the parent, spouse, a legal guardian, family member, or a friend. It doesn't have to be someone related to the member. Whoever is selected does have to be willing and capable of completing the employer duties. Please note, whoever is selected to be the employer of record cannot also work as the employee, should you choose a self-directed service that has an employee option. If you do select someone to be the employer of record and want to change who that is for whatever reason, that's fine. Whoever will become the new employer of record will just complete the enrollment process, and then they would be able to take over those duties. If you do start self-direction and then decide it's not a good fit for you for whatever reason, you can choose to go back to the traditional option at any time. If you do choose to end self-direction, though, you would have to wait to come back to self-direction, should you choose to, at the time of the next annual plan renewal. So the services available through self-direction, you can get habilitation training specialist services, also known as HTS services. This is where someone would work one-on-one with the client, either at home or in the community, developing a skill set in the individual plan. We also have the individual job coaching available. So this would be someone assisting the client with their job out in the community where they're making at least minimum wage. And we also have goods and services. Now, I do want to mention that you can receive a combination of traditional services and self-directed services. You don't have to choose one or the other. So for example, you could choose the HTS services through self-direction and also receive HTS services through an agency. A situation like that might be, well, maybe you have one person in mind, but you need, two people to work. You could have the one provide services through HTS or self-directed, and then have another employee through an agency provide the other services needed. Now, more information on the goods and services part. You can kind of think of it as more creative alternatives to traditional therapies. So, for example, swimming lessons and gym memberships might be chosen to help replace some physical therapy sessions. Uh, we also have the options of camps, therapeutic horseback riding. This is not a comprehensive list. Really, you can be quite creative. Another example not listed on here is art therapy lessons. Now, in addition to receiving services through self-direction, you can also receive some equipment that's not available through the traditional option. Examples of this will be adaptive swing sets and specialized tricycles. Now, one thing to keep in mind is DDS is what's called the payer of last resort. So if funding for a good or service is available through a different source, such as maybe directly from Medicaid or through the school if the client's child age, that would be the pathway to get those services, but your case manager can help you determine which services could possibly be covered through self-direction. There are some items that definitely are not available through self-direction. That includes things like co-payments, insurance costs, room and board expenses, costs for vehicle maintenance, clothing, personal trainers, and spa treatments. Now, once you do decide you would like to get goods and services added to the plan, the first thing you need to do is to let your case manager know that you would like to do self-direction. At that point, you'll complete enrollment, and you'd also provide the case manager with an invoice and a recommendation letter from a licensed professional, such as it could be the primary care doctor, a speech therapist, occupational therapist, any licensed professional with justification for how they would benefit from receiving that good or service. Now, some of the advantages of self-direction compared to traditional services. If you live in a rural area, you might not have an agency available to, provide and find staff for you. Or maybe you just haven't been able to find an agency that's willing to provide services. With self-direction, you'll have more control over finding and hiring a caregiver yourself, and you can also help avoid turnover. One way to do that is by potentially being able to pay your employee more than an agency would. Right now, the current maximum pay rate for HTS staff through self-direction is $18.35 an hour. And of course, you can also receive goods and services that aren't available through the traditional option. Self-direction might be a good fit for you if you want the responsibility of being an employer. And of course, Acumen is here to help you along with that responsibility. If you want goods and services that are not available through the traditional options, such as those camps, swimming lessons, horseback riding therapy. And it could be a good fit if you already have someone in mind that you want to be the HTS. We do have more information on self-direction available on the Acumen website. You can go to acumenfiscalagent.com/OK-IHSW-SD/. And on the website, there is a section called Employer Training Modules. These have the 8 lessons that you would take in order to complete enrollment. Well, it has 8 lessons. They're not very long. They're just broken up into different sections, and they can provide a good deal of information to help you decide whether or not self-direction is a good fit for you. Now, when it comes time to actually enroll, the first thing you'll do is talk to your case manager. Your case manager will have you complete a few forms, and you'll talk with them about what pay rate you would like to pay your employees and discuss the number of employees you plan to hire. Each employee will have a background check completed on them. And then you also want to talk to any potential employees. If you're wanting to receive HTS services or job coaching, you want to talk to the person and make sure they're interested. And then we do provide enrollment assistance. We have options of either over the phone, in person. We also have instructional videos to help you complete the process. Now, for those that are wanting to become the employer of record, the enrollment does require a notarized form. So when you do complete enrollment, you would need to have a current photo ID for notarization. Upon completion of enrollment, you'll receive additional training on record keeping, quarterly reporting, how to change your employee's pay rate down the line if you choose to. And you'll also receive additional training on our timekeeping system, as well as how to submit the payment request for those goods and services. Now for the employees, if you're planning on hiring an employee for those HTS or job coaching services, your employee does have to provide IDs that confirm their eligibility for employment. They'll have the background check completed, and then the employee will also receive additional training on our timekeeping system. Keep in mind that employees do have to maintain current CPR and first aid certification. And then here is a list of acceptable IDs that employees can use for confirming their employment eligibility. They either need an ID from List A, such as a passport, or an ID from List B and List C. So for example, driver's license and social security card. Upon enrollment, you will receive this list of IDs that the employee can use as well. And then once again, if you do have any additional questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat tonight, or reach out to your case manager, or send an email to us, and we'd be happy to answer your questions. And at this time, I don't see any questions in our chat. So I'll give everyone just a few minutes to get their questions in if they have any. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and I hope everyone has a good evening.